So, I mean, obviously describing IFPRI's research from production to sustainability over the last 40 years is a daunting task. And I will therefore really just keep it very short. I've been reminded several times. I'll talk a bit about overall broad trends, give 3 examples how research has or has not changed over the last 40 years, mention a few success stories, and as everyone has done so far, also list a few challenges and opportunities for the future. So here is the broad trend. 70s, very clearly, we focused on supplies and on staples. Production was the key word of the day or of the years. But very quickly in the 80s, we moved on to productivity. We looked into irrigation policy, fertilizer policy. What can we do on so-called less favored lands, forest margins? We started the work on poverty, environment, and growth triangles. And even in 1987, we already had a report on how we can incorporate women, how can women get access to technologies. So some of the trends were set early on. In the 2000s, we moved very strongly into climate change research. It was really a very important area and obviously will remain an important area out into the future. We also started to work more on ecosystem services, ecosystem health, not least as a result of the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment, where we made a lot of contributions on the food side. What will we do tomorrow? We obviously don't necessarily know, but I believe we will do more on risk management, work in fragile areas, and also try to, while we understand that agriculture is embedded in ecosystems and we need healthy ecosystems, we'll also try to decouple production growth more and more from natural resource use. So now the 3 examples. Has research changed over time at IFPRI or has it not? The first one goes right back to what Kim said was the main reason for the foundation of IFPRI. The uncertainty over future food supplies, world food supplies. So the very first IFPRI research report, 1976, unsurprisingly focused on the topic. But how was it done? It looked into gross deficits, net surpluses, which countries produced more than they needed and which countries did not. So it's a very strong focus again on supplies. How are we doing the same thing today? We have never stopped doing work on food supply and demand projections, but we have significantly changed how we're doing it. Now I would call it an integrated framework for coupled human-natural systems analysis. Already in the 90s, water was incorporated into the assessment framework. Water was identified as a key challenge for future agricultural productivity growth. We moved on looking into climate change. Climate change is now an integrated factor when we look into anything regarding future food production growth. We also added biofuels. We've heard already that this is an important topic, remains an important topic. We've been looking into water pollution globally and what we can do to address that as part of the system, and finally, biodiversity threats. But we've not only incorporated more biophysical underpinnings, we also now work at much more highly disaggregated scales, and we can really assess disaggregated policy and technology options at a very low level of resolution, and also for a very large variety of not only technologies, but also crops, so certainly away from just staples. The second example, are we doing anything different? Big, important area, and we've heard this morning, we have done important work on that, the case for investment in agricultural research then and today. My conclusion from my research is that we are not really doing a lot of different things. The message has stayed the same. So this is the 3rd research report that IFPRI has done in 1977. Clearly states we need large increases in investment in agriculture. And in the end, it says that it's unlikely that some of these increases will actually materialize. So the number of voices, the research hasn't changed. The number of voices making the case has increased. And so now I added a statement from Bill Gates in 2012, who more or less says the same, slightly different words. It is shocking, not to mention short-sighted and potentially dangerous, how little money is spent on agricultural research. So the message hasn't changed. We have more voices, but unfortunately we also have more voices saying many different things. And unfortunately the voices based on research are often drowned out by other voices, which is why we continue to see the large variability in investments in agricultural research, as we've also heard by Rob earlier today. But investing in agriculture, R&D, continues to pay off. We have here in our panel representatives from China and Brazil, and those are the two top lines in terms of agriculture total factor productivity growth in recent years. The third example, has research changed for the other two reasons why IFPRI was funded? Those were, why do farmers not adopt those great technologies that the centers and others were developing? And the overall agriculture policy environment, how can we change it? In the 70s, we started thinking that the farmer is the farm household. Adoption of technology only depended on the quality of the technology, and we only cared about staples. The government was the only second actor out there, the main supplier of research, direction, guidance, and we often identified singular policy solutions. Whoops, sorry. We have moved on from that, understanding that multiple institutions and actors are in play with multiple innovators and increasingly including the private sector. We have developed this Capri Framework with a very disaggregated view and much more comprehensive understanding that time and space matter in how technologies will be adopted, can be adopted, and what matters for the adoption of technology. Plus, we now understand there's a female and a male decision maker in the household, embedded in a larger collective. So what are some of the successes in promoting sustainable production? Schengen already listed, he mentioned the first couple, so I don't want to repeat them, also because we want to save time, and we probably will hear some more successes of sustainable agricultural production promotion from our panelists. So in addition to what we've already heard on debunking myths on the Green Revolution, the beliefs on investment, multiplier effects, and that investing in rural roads and other infrastructure is important for both agriculture and the non-agricultural sectors. We also have done a lot of work on the cost of inaction on both land and water management. And again, this cost is not just to the agriculture sector, it's a large cost to the overall economy. The work that we have done on climate change and agriculture is, I believe, one of the main data sources, and I dare to say the main data source used in a global debate on climate change and agriculture. And finally, our highly disaggregated analysis of agriculture technologies is highly thought after, especially with our African regional partners. But of course, it's not easy, it's not all success. Complex challenges and opportunities remain. And there are many, and those are just a few, and I hope the panel will continue to deliberate on many of those and maybe expand them, or maybe say, no, some of those are not really challenges. I'd say having zero deforestation, zero land, soil and water degradation as goals among the SDGs, together with zero hunger, energy access for all, sustainable water access for all, is one of our main challenges into the future. How can we achieve that? Under growing climate variability and climate change impacts that specifically affect the agriculture sector. At the same time, we are trying to do better identifying nutrition and health challenges and opportunities in agricultural production. We want sustainable, energy-sustainable agricultural production, not just water and land sustainable agricultural production. There's scope for post-harvest losses, but we have to see the scope in the overall agricultural production domain. How much can it contribute and what can it not do? And what should it not replace? We have to deal with overconsumption, many consuming more natural resources, consuming a very large share, whereas others basically are left out of the picture, which also plays to this growing inequity and conflict situation that we have to deal with. And all of that within our multiple innovators and institutions. If we put this all together, and if we do good research and reach the last mile, I believe we can build more resilient production systems, deliver more food with fewer resources, and based on cost-effective policies, investments, and technologies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claudia. Thank you.